the expressive work, it's not just about like art projects or art exercises, or, movement exercises or whatever. It's bringing in that whole realm of sensory processing into our work, which is a big thing now in trauma research. And looking at those procedures that might be helpful for people that start from the so-called bottom up and not, from up here down, which is where talk therapy actually starts because our higher brain is involved with language. We're trying to think through expressive arts therapy and the whole adjacent field of sensory integration, sensory processing about, how to address those things that go on in the body to kind of clear those things so that people can kind of recover this higher brain and maybe language, narrative, storytelling about things that they were not able to express otherwise. So it's that kind of a vehicle. But my recent focus has been, again, on this whole thing of, which I think is just important right now, in the world. How do we reset our nervous systems? How do we help people that we're working with, whether it's individuals, groups, families, children, adults, any age range, and even communities, reset their nervous systems through these kind of action-oriented practices? So just kind of a recap of that. And then I just want to do a little short review here of a couple concepts because these are really relative to today. And the first one, I hope you remember this from last time. And I think it's a pretty common sense idea, but I don't think it's really been articulated except over the last 10 or 15 years. Even though we've had a lot of people in the somatic realm, we've had people in the sensory integration fields, all looking at how that contributes to trauma recovery. But in expressive arts and expressive arts therapy approach, it's really about helping people kind of come to their senses in some way. And it's really about that piece now that we know, which is neurobiology's taught us what we need to come to our senses. And it's really been helping, I think, the field of trauma recovery, and we can take that into stress reduction and working with distress, not only traumatic stress, develop these effective components for addressing trauma. And this is a new thing relatively. A lot of us are pretty familiar with it now. I don't take it for granted at all because when, you look back 2 decades ago and 3 and 4 decades ago when the word trauma wasn't even used, nobody addressed the senses. It wasn't about that body-based approach. And the body-based approach, all the things like somatic experiencing, and I'll talk a little bit more about how we can apply sensory motor psychotherapy with expressive arts. Some of you are familiar with that practice and may have trained in that model. How important it is that now we are addressing the senses. And so glad to see, again, I'm just going to reiterate in the research that this is becoming more and more dominant. It's taken a while. We still have a long way to go, but it's very exciting for someone like me who's always been using expressive work with people to see that it's getting validated as a way to work with stress and to reset our nervous system as well.